Hello and thank you for joining us from wherever you are. We're coming to you live from our studios here in Kukumlimle. Our digital address GA0992539. Our top stories this hour. Health officials warn of health crisis amidst Ghana's soaring coronavirus case count and pressure on health facilities. We're heavy on the situation today as we focus on the seeming societal psyche of denial. And political parties express satisfaction over the performance of EC's new registration kits expected to be used for June 30's mass registration exercise. We have been on the ground and we've got details of how it actually works. Also coming up, teachers take licensure exams on Sunday as National Teaching Council reviews from one paper each day to all in one. We're live with Executive Secretary of the NTC to find out how exactly are the teachers expected to perform under these circumstances. We're live on your digital television, also on DSTV channel 421, GoTV 144, and on YouTube. Send us your thoughts on 0540109009. My name is Gifty Andopia. This is The Pulse. Please be my guest. Welcome to the show. Now, Ghana will have a full-blown health crisis in 2 weeks if drastic measures are not taken immediately. This means hospitals are likely to be overrun, leading to a much higher number of deaths if government doesn't act swiftly. This disturbing projection was made by some health experts on Prime Morning today. We'll be hearing from them shortly. But the Ghana Health Service has also been giving us updates on the country's COVID situation. Director of Public Health at the service, Dr. Bedu Sarkodie, disclosed the number of cases confirmed as 12,929. 4 persons infected with COVID-19 are in critical condition and are at the moment on ventilators, whilst 14 others are critically ill.
The total number of 12,029 positive cases have been reported out of 261,319 persons tested. This brings the positivity rate to a figure of 4.95%. The total number of people that have recovered, the figure now stands at 4,468. And the people that have succumbed to it, unfortunately, that have died from COVID-related deaths, as at the time of mentioned 16th June, stands at 66. Total number of cases that are active stand at 8,395. And these are people that have been managed on treatment sites in isolation centers, and some of them under home management. 14 cases are classified as severe, and 4 are considered or classified as critical that are on ventilators. The next slides will give us the distribution of the cases per region. These are the regional distribution. Total number of 339 new cases reported from 36 districts in 8 regions. The regions that reported cases are what you see here. Greater Accra reported 154 cases from 17 districts. Western region, 58 cases from 2 districts. Ashanti region, 41 cases in 5 districts. Central region, 38 cases in 1 district. Eastern, 38 cases in 1 district. Eastern region, 15 cases in 2 districts. Volta, 3 cases in 4 districts. Bono East, 9 cases in 3 districts. Northern region, 9 cases from 1 district. and Savannah, 2 cases from 1 district. The next 2 slides would give us the various differences that we had from the previous updates till now. And Greater Accra reported total of 154 cases, new ones. And those districts, 17 districts that reported cases are what you see on the extreme right column. Eastern region, 15 new cases from Upper Menya, Krobo, and New Gabin. Central region, 38 cases, all from Cape Coast. Western region, 58 cases from Wasa, Menfi, Takwa, and Suayim. Upper West region, okay, Volta region, 13 cases from Ho, Agotime, Zope, K2 North, and Pandu. Shantou region, 41 cases from Asqua municipality, which is now the hotspot for the region. Obuasi 7 cases, Kumasi Metro 1, Ejoso 1, and Mampo 1. Saboba, Northern region reported 9 new cases from Saboba, and Savannah reported 2 cases from Central Gonja. Bono East, 9 cases from Pro East, Techiman, and Upper West region, Upper East, Northeast, Oti, West North, and Bono East, Bono region, and Ahafo region did not report any new cases. Your Honor, the Minister of Information, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is a situational update on the case count on COVID-19 for the country, Ghana.
Dr. Bidusa Kodewa, the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Abwaji, has also been talking about the case management protocols that have been reviewed. He says patients who are asymptomatic will be discharged 14 days after initial positive result. He has been giving us further details on this.
Discharge means, as I'll go through, means that you are healthy, you don't pose a risk to anybody, and so you are discharged. But we'll go ahead and see that you have tested negative, and then we'll pray that you are viral. But I'll give you the symptoms. So the new criteria combine time-based and symptom-based strategies. That's the duration when you were contracted up to the time, and also what are the symptoms? Are you still coughing? Do you have fever, etc.? These are the 2 combinations that that is more that helps us. For cases being discharged after a period of time and symptom-free, that is for those who are not showing any symptoms. The period of time is the initial after the initial test was done. So basically, we have the time-based. That is those who are not showing the symptoms. Is about how long was he tested positive and how long is it now. And for those who are symptoms, are they still exhibiting symptoms after a certain duration of time? That will determine whether we discharge them. So based on that, WHO in that guidelines made 2 recommendations. For symptomatic patients, that is those who have exhibiting either cough, fever, who are sick, for say, 10 days after the symptoms of onset, plus at least 3 days without symptoms. So 10 days from the positive test was done, up to the time that you have 3 days, a minimum of 3 days. So if you, after 10 days, you are able to show that no symptom for the next 3 days, you are discharged without a test. For those who do not have symptoms, WHO recommend that for 10 days after initial positive test, you should be discharged. There are new evidence that we can show. Evidence of many studies have shown that they continue to shed virus from the upper respiratory tract, that is from the throat, nose, etc., approximately 7 to 12 days. And in respect to the number of the viral load, after a certain period, you do not share. In Ghana, our own case management team had followed about 146 patients, and all of them had tested. The average time for testing 2 negative was 14 days. So in view of all the evidence that is coming out across the globe, we decided, with all the context that I've done, to review our policy to reflect the new trends and also decongest our place and also allow us to focus more on the sick. So we, as a service, met all our directors and other stakeholders, other scientists were consulted, and these were the new protocols that we had agreed to. That for patients who are asymptomatic, that's, for example, somebody in PCC, etc., if you are admitted to the Pentecost Convention Center or any of our isolation centers, 14 days after the initial positive. The initial positive is not when you receive your results. It's the day your sample was taken, or that is when you were positive, not when the results came. 14 days after that, we will discharge you without a test. For those who are symptomatic, we do 14 days after discharge, and then if you are without, after the testing positive, if you are without symptoms, you are discharged. After at least 3 days of no symptoms, you are discharged without a test. What we will do is that then you'll be asked, because you don't pose any threat, you'll be now doing your negative test on the at home, and then come for review, and we'll see that way. So that's when that will do. So when we have reviewed that, we realize that quite a significant number of people who still remain on our books because their lab results are not in, would all be discharged unless they have conditions. So basically, this is a new policy. So the policy is that 14 days for asymptomatic cases. From the time that you are tested, you took your sample, you'll be discharged. So if I was sent to, they took my sample on the 1st, I probably got my results on the 3rd of March. I moved to PCC. On the day I arrive, I know that on the 14th of June, I'll be going home. And you have some predictability as to when you go. For those in hospital, and usually within 10 days, symptoms abate, and then we'll do 3 more days. If you remain stable, then you are discharged. And we hope that will also help us.
Essentially, we're making space for other people who are increasingly testing positive. So 14 days we discharge you, whether or not you test negative. Let's hear from health experts who say Ghana will have or could have a full-blown health crisis on our hands if in 2 weeks we do not take drastic measures. President of the Ghana Association of Doctors in Residency, Dr. Bernard Hammond, has been speaking to my colleague Daniel Dazi on Prime Morning.
It's happening on the ground now. From what Dr. Atenkwan was saying yesterday, you have the treatment and isolation centers being full. So unless we step out and do something extra, i.e. what I proposed, get a particular place to take care of these unstable patients, the critically ill patients. Now, also, the public education is so crucial. Yesterday, he made a very disparaging. I was shocked. People in Kumasi, in the marketplaces, and all that, they are not wearing face masks. It should be enforced. And the hand hygiene, social distancing protocols, we should push it. It should be enforced. And also look at the PPEs. As he said, 2 weeks is enough time. We can turn things around when we now start being proactive. Instead of waiting for it to hit us, then we'll start scrambling. What can we do? What can we do?
So that's Dr. Hammond there. He's not alone in this warning. Here is health fellow with the Center for Democratic Development, CDD, Kwame Sapon-Esiedu, also speaking on the same show.
Quality of care because of the relatively high COVID cases to doctor ratio. And the fact that if you heard Dr. Hammond, he was saying that a lot of the facilities do not have the specialist critical care capabilities that Komfanoche has. So those two things are an issue if Komfanoche doesn't have enough beds. Because I did say last Monday that for every part of the world, this disease has shown that between 5 and 10% of all their cases would require some high level of care, out of which about 2 to 3% would require serious critical care. So if you're looking at Ashanti's 2,300 cases,
right,
you should expect that around 200 of them would require some form of care.
I think as clinicians, we should look at interpreting the fact that it could be from the quality of care.
So that's the warning coming up this afternoon, and most of the health experts have warned actually earlier. Let's go to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, which we understand is struggling to find space to keep new COVID patients after exhausting all 8 beds dedicated to management of this infection. The country is currently recording increasing cases of severe coronavirus infections that's requiring hospitalization, as you may well be aware of. But space is running out at least in Accra and Kumasi, including the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, which also happens to be our biggest health facility. I have here our head of health desk, Fred Smith, I beg your pardon, who has just returned from the hospital. He joins me with more of what he found. Fred, what more can you report?
Well, the Kolebu Teaching Hospital itself doesn't have a dedicated facility for treating COVID patients. And so what they're doing now is they've converted a part of the fevers unit into a treatment center for COVID patients. And that has only 8 beds. As we speak, the 8 beds are fully occupied. And so any new case will not find a space at Kolebu to be handled. There are 2 options available to those who work there. Either they send the patient to another facility, and as we've heard already, all the other facilities are also full. And so you have to keep them. How do you keep them and where? And this disease is such that it requires space. So some of the wards they're using currently to treat other ailments will have to be converted into COVID wards so that they can treat them. That's the general situation. But originally, the hospital itself is supposed to have its own dedicated COVID treatment center. That is under construction, and you know this disease just sprang up on us. So that is under construction, but it has come to a halt because I do understand from the sources speaking to me that there's a lack of funds. The contractor has left site. I actually went there and saw that there was no work going on at all. It's reached a level where they just have to roof and plaster and maybe paint, put in a few fittings. That's where it's got into. Nothing is happening as we speak, and also it is because there is no money. If we had that, we'll have about 44 to 45 beds, which can also accommodate some more numbers in terms of this management of the COVID situation. And so that is creating a certain problem for the hospital, and people who work there are very, very unhappy about the situation because it puts their lives at risk also.
Exactly, and it unnecessarily exposes them, if you like, overexposes them. And that brings to mind, Fred Smith, the issue about the fact that we're now beginning to experience people who are infected to the extent that they need hospitalization, which means that this is just the beginning. And that's why the health experts are warning that we should expect a full-blown health crisis if we don't tackle this properly.
We had the Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Bedusa Kodia, explain today that we are not seeing, there's no evidence to suggest that the virus is changing in character. That is to say, it is mutating. But on the ground, and we know the experts at the University of Ghana researching into this, those who did the sequencing, have been able to conclude that indeed the virus has mutated. It's just the extent to which it has mutated that we're looking at. And so if it has, it will explain why our situation, we're beginning to get some more critical cases than we used to, because we are told by the Ghana Health Service itself that a majority of those who are contracting the virus now show symptoms and require hospital attention. And so we need to pay attention to that. And if that's the situation, maybe the isolation centers may now have to be converted. And you know, for every treatment center, you'd need a number of items, the ventilator, so many other medical supplies to be put in there. It is much more expensive to set up the treatment center than, and you also need personnel. And you know, majority of our, a lot of our doctors are also testing positive. And so it becomes very complex for us as a people. What we need to do is to act fast before things turn on us.
Okay, and I was going to ask you what we need to do, so it's good that you've added that to it for me, Fred. Thank you. I just share with you some of the messages we're receiving on the back of this. This message is from Bantama Ortega Jr. Census. He says, I think our president is running away from his speech he made us during one of his speeches on COVID-19. And you quote, you say, we can bring back economy to life, but cannot bring back dead persons, to life. If he really means his words, then he should talk to the Electoral Commission to stop the compilation of new voters register, or else what I'm seeing, Ghana will not be safe to live after the registration. Ortega, you send that on the back of the registration. Some of you have been sending messages on what you think we can do about this situation. And I'll read some of those messages as we go along, but let's still stay on how, especially you are reacting to this development. In spite of all that's happening around us in terms of what's been done with COVID-19 or what COVID-19 is doing, some people have yet to come to terms with the reality of the dangers that this disease poses. It's been 3 months since Ghana recorded the very first case of COVID-19, yet despite months of education, if you like, press briefings and discussions, some Ghanaians do not seem to appreciate the existence of COVID-19. So what is accounting for this, and what can be done to help such individuals come to the extent or to the level where we all agree that there is a problem and we need to work on it? Joining us later for that conversation is Dr. Emmanuel Sampon, clinical psychologist and senior lecturer at the Department of Social and Behavioral Sciences. We'll have a lengthy conversation with him about this. But first, let's hear from some residents of Kwabinya here in Accra, where people say they don't believe in the existence of this virus. They're actually calling on government to release images of supposed victims if government wants them to stay and keep safe. They're also claiming that it may be true in the West, but not so for us. They told JoyNews' PSC Nanaya Osafo that they have absolutely no fears of the virus at all.
Of June 18, 2020, Ghana has recorded 66 deaths and 12,590 confirmed cases. Many say the streets are no more safe and are reacting in different ways to the rising numbers coming in daily. Here with me are some citizens of Ghana right here in Kwabinya. They tell me in their varied opinions and occupations how they have been dealing with the news of increasing facts and figures coming in daily of the virus.
Coronavirus on one part I say and because sena yare ne bia omu yi TV su say yare ne kwa na ekoso ba amanoni no omu che yare no omu Ajazira omu che say nipa se na wu nipa se na yare da ho ba ye de obi wu a ye hu obi yare no so a ye hu
but so share JoyNews ye best about community be say nipa say omo say ye kata omanim de
ma hu say omo yi hu ba say na mo si ye no ama no ye hu say yare na ho because me say no yare no ho yi kire me say yare na ho na ma hu say am for down pass so I say ma hu say am for hospital there and there obi abeka no because obi o wa on share mask no one me tell me jana say am share mask no because me ntindi
o train say obi hu obi picture say we nya COVID-19 answer
be say me hu say na Ajazira for no yi obi wu na omo yi e kire no omo so omo yi ni sa na hu say ampa yare no ho
enti dia koso we rebe nyina onyi ni
me nim hwe me nim this abrochi de na me hwe Ajazira abrochi de na me hu say yare no o abrochi ba Ghana de
Inti driving adwuma yi nipa we bre omba ka mu na se de bia won shada fa ho se ensuro se owo bi wo ho
oh me dem enye private way na me company driver me truck driver, me a company driver. Me pay kwa bontin. Ba me I say me hu san bia me obi ani na ma hu say face mask there ya hye nam ba me nim say yare bi wo sa. Thomas.
Okay, so Thomas is a driver right here in Accra. He says, as for him, he's heard that there is coronavirus in the world. He does believe in it, but he doesn't believe that it exists right here in Ghana. As a matter of fact, he says, till he sees images or he sees any person he knows who has COVID-19, he is going about life as usual. And then he signaled that, as we can see, he is not in face mask, meaning he doesn't have any fear of it right here in the country. But he believes, per what is seen on the BBC and Al Jazeera, that it is out there beyond the walls of Ghana.
Ghana had the Matinka and Yameshe. I'm not the animal who said, "Bibi Ekoswo," because in Penny4 can be said, "See is believing." And I had to say, "She in Koso." You who say, "Obi wu news so na yet answer." And I had to say, "Yeah, I Kano is Robianum." They say me a Mijina pa, Suropa, cat is Rodio Minsuru. And they told me become a boss and a catch and so me use nose mask.
And boss international mask.
And yet me boss near Cosuntina Meshe. Now so near woman say, no credit a baco pay. Almost say Nipu to send yam boy baco cano. Oh, my woman, my own. One the way in the city because I'm on no my own. Wow, Maunipa Baku has a seer. Bon say, oh, now see you.
Now, Yamin Pengo says, Sabio, Abusi, and Nibi, Ned, Nifuni Babonjisa, Abe.
Oh, I know dear, to me, no dear, and yet. Now, so one more wounded dear, Uncle was saying to me, I'm going to Sabio, Abusi, and Nibi, a tonus, I am found to Jana. Almost found to Jana. I want to be to Jassa, papa.
So he maintains the same theory by the other driver that till we see images of that, or till he sees images of that, the fear of coronavirus is not something that he lives with every day. He says he's waiting on daily to see people who have actually died from it. I asked him a question. Now, what happens if these people happen to be any members of his family? Would he like their dignity and their images out there in the public as such? He replied, yes.
Coronavirus na bani di nyamiya nkran mini me momi de misro. Intimi all that time be na ma me face mask there, me fe niago. Sanitizer me fe niago. But sino me de misro. Ba aya na bi no kasa yare no yare na de e wo ho. Udi agura obewu because no say na me tie radio station baako na ye interview doctor baako wo so ono no oye doctor no oprobe obo no ho baako no ni saka yare no eti de benti na wo nipa wo ho no ma wuntimi mo ho ba ya se wutimi bo ho ban bebi no mo ka say nka odi obi a wawu no yemfa ne no ade no wo ho e kosoro enti so nipa no wo de ne ba de na be because yen Ghana for yen timi nda abrofo say yare aba abrofo ne de bae yen timi nda America yen timi nda Germany and say Italy I didn't know more. Quite famous. In Ghana for any better say, I ran in your I ran it. Into the only one see for independent didn't talk on time. Because Maria on Maria soon will be why I'm finding the top on testing with Maria. Yaran it.
Papa, so he says he's of the firm belief that the disease is out there and that coronavirus is real and it's no, there are no lies to it. He says even if the conspiracy theories happen to be true, he doesn't see any way that Africans are going to be able to deceive the European powers, but they rather often have the chance of deceiving us. That's his own theory. In other words, he's saying just like malaria, you do not need to see that someone has one before you believe it, and that they
PSC Nanaya Osafo there, who was out and about talking to people to find out what they think. So the seeming societal psyche of denial is what we're talking about with Dr. Emmanuel Sampong. But I just want to read to you some of the messages that are coming in on the back of this particular story. This one says, come to Ofoyi Krom in Kumasi, and you will see most shops don't have the Veronica bucket. Yet the municipality is one of the first to record cases before the lockdown. John Nyako said that from Ofoyi Krom. And this one says that what the Ashanti Regional Director of Health Services said yesterday did not make sense. When the medics in the region diagnose someone of COVID based on a positive test and the person dies, what audit is the national level doing to that so that we will not make those deaths count? COVID or COVID-related deaths are both associated with COVID and must be counted as such. He says, I guess our leaders were trying to paint a good picture of the situation. No wonder people are moving around without face mask because they think COVID does not kill. All right, help us, he says, Anthony from South Africa. Anthony, thank you for sending in that message. Dr. Emmanuel Sampon, thank you so much for your time. He is a clinical psychologist and senior lecturer at the Department of Social and Behavioral Sciences, University of Ghana. Doc, so I don't know what you have read so far from the first day that we recorded a case in March up until now, and the sentiments that are playing out. As a social scientist, what do you see?
Right. Thank you, Gifty, for the opportunity. First of all, I think we need to acknowledge the fact that COVID-19 is associated with, some heightened of anxiety and stress. And in instances like that, it is to be expected that human as we are, tend to adhere to, instructions. I mean, our tendency to adhere to instructions becomes suspect. We usually tend to be rebellious. And because, again, we do know at the back of our minds that this thing could be there, it makes us feel emotionally unstable, and therefore we resort to some kind of defense mechanism. And that is what we're seeing out there as in people denying. I mean, denial is a defense mechanism strategy, and it is basically because people do not find themselves in the hardest hit areas. Quite apart from that, it is also the case that perhaps these people don't really feel like, yes, they are susceptible to, as it were, contracting the disease. And it is also the case that people may not know anybody who possibly might have contracted the disease. And so you heard people talking about displaying images and all those things. And that's what brings in the contextual issues. The fact that in our setting, I mean, it's really not acceptable that you will display, images of dead bodies. And one person was asked, if it were your family member, would you accept that? And I noticed there was some hesitation. All that point to the fact that, this is not something that will sit well with us as a people. So I guess generally, it's just people, trying to, as it were, react to the stresses that are happening. But again, it is important that we note that in every society, there are typically two categories of people: those who are open-minded and those who are closed-minded. Usually, the open-minded people are receptive to new ideas, new instructions, For those who are closed-minded, it will usually be very difficult to get them to, accept any new introduction. And so, if it were possible and we were able to identify these categories of people, then it would be helpful to work with the open-minded people. What happens is that because there will be changes in their lives, and everything about them, it gets to a point that the closed-minded people need not to be talked to, because then they just conform and fall in line. But the difficulty is being able to identify, people in the society or communities who are open-minded. And that is why we would have to adopt, some strategy in reaching out to people within the various communities, because for every community, you definitely will have, people who tend to know each other. And if we are able to identify, a number of times said that education must continue, and it is not just putting out the information, but we need to ensure that we are empowering certain people with the information who live within the communities. And these are the people who will in turn relay the messages to the people in the communities. I guess, the way things are going, that's the kind of strategy we need to adopt, so that people really will get to know that even if they do not believe that COVID-19 exists, they will definitely try to put in measures that will not make them, contract the disease.
It's interesting the way you put it, but I'm just wondering from a psychologist's perspective that usually when people get into denial, as some are doing, what is the most effective way of reaching them with the hard news and telling them that, okay, or giving them a rude awakening that this is it, you either accept it or lose your life somehow?
Right. So denial itself, it's more like a procedural thing. We usually do not expect that people will accept things as and when they happen, because then that could also create some problems for them. So the expectation is that after some time, when you have been in denial, you need to progress to the next stage until the point where you indeed will accept that indeed something like this is happening. But of course, we need to also acknowledge the fact that we have fast learners and slow learners, in the society. There are some people who will take, quite a relatively longer term in trying to, as it were, learn something. And so, yes, it is to be understood that, yes, people may be in the denial state for quite a long time. But for such people, it is important that constantly, very consistently, and in fact persistently, we will put out the facts about COVID-19, what it is, how people can contract it, and, that kind of thing. Once we do that, that will be a way of conscientizing these people. Now, when the information gets to them, what they try to do is to, as it were, play with it until the point where they will make it part of what they already know. That's when then assimilation will take place, and then if it is that it is something that really does not fit with what they already hold, then you should expect to see some changes, in the way that they do things. So I think that it is important that taking into account that the times we find ourselves in, we have several people who have said that we are not in normal times. And so we should expect that people's reactions will also not be the normal one. And therefore, for such people, we need to, approach them with some calmness and ensure that we are constantly giving them the information. And in fact, the facts, that is what will make them gradually appreciate that indeed COVID-19 is with us, and therefore they need to put in, certain measures that will not make them contract the disease.
Given all the facts, does it include defying societal norms or traditional customs to put out the pictures, if you like, of dead people? If that's what will create that rude awakening, to put out details, information about these dead people, even though it breaks some of the customs that we are used to, if it does the job, why not?
Right, so that's what I mentioned about the fact that, we are, a traditional people, where our context really frowns on, some of those things. And therefore, it will be very difficult to, as it were, put out images out there. Issues of ethics, come in here. Even in the Western world where people were making reference to, there is no way you would see faces, So, and similar things have been done here. There are instances where images are shown and the faces are blocked. So sometimes it's just difficult to really appreciate, how people want the messaging to be put out there. And so for me, when it happens that way, then I am tempted to put such people into the closed-minded category. For closed-minded people, it will take relatively a longer time to get into them.
Health experts are already warning that we should expect some pretty bad times ahead, looking at the stress that this situation is putting on our health systems, and also the fact that, in fact, healthcare delivery officials themselves, doctors, nurses, other people who are involved in this fight are themselves getting infected. How can we take advantage, and I use that word advisedly, how can we take advantage of this rather unfortunate situation to wake up these close-minded people?
Right, so I want to emphasize again that COVID-19 is associated with fear and panic. And in instances like that, what we need to do is to show some calmness. Calmness in approaching the people, reaching out to them very calmly, making them know the facts, doing so very consistently. And so at the least opportunity, if we can put out, some of the messaging, the messages out there for people to, resort to doing A, B, C. It shouldn't be said that we did it once in a week and then we are done. Judging by the nature of people we have around, I think it is something that we need to consistently do that. I mean, and use any platform available to us to ensure that we are putting out the messages out there to the people. And I think that it's about time we did that, you know, rather than to wait till when all the facilities will be full and we won't have anywhere to put people. So I guess that the sentiments people are expressing are, they are just pointers to us that we need to intensify our efforts at reaching out to them better.
My final question will be, do you think that the removal of restrictions, for example, first of all, there was the lockdown, which was eased. Then there was the ban on mass or social or mass gathering, which was also eased essentially. Now people are starting to go back to school. And you're on the University of Ghana campus, people are now returning to school, even if it's at half capacity. To what extent do some of these actions we've taken work on the minds of people to just relax in terms of adhering to the protocols?
So sometimes, I don't know, but I think that the messages that are put there tend to make people get into some dilemma, because the idea is that, yes, people are supposed to, as it were, step out there, you know, continue with their, you know, normal activities. But then in another breath, you know, we are told that, yes, our lives are in our own hands. And so we need to ensure that, yes, we do not do anything that will make us, you know, prone to getting, you know, the disease. So I think that it's important that the key messages that we put out there are those that really will tell us exactly what to do, you know, because for some people, they may pick up on, you know, those that fits them or those that really suits what they want to do and would want to, as it were, go by that. This is the time where we need, you know, to couch the messages that we put out there in such a way that indeed it will address, you know, the exact problems that people have. And I think that putting out messages that really will be convincing, there are people who are trained to do that. There are several communicators around who can reach out to people better. And so perhaps we need to, as it were, bring on board all these people. I mean, then with their expertise, I seriously think that we can do something. And it's important that I mention this, you know, the fact that when we talk about health, it goes just, I mean, beyond the virus. Health, you know, will always take into account, you know, the physical setting, of course, that we know, the psychological setting, the social setting, and in fact, even in recent times, the religious setting, because there are people who, you know, are saying that for them, they know that, yes, I mean, there's some spiritual thing that will take care of their. And I think that we've gotten to the point where for all these facets that I have mentioned, people who are responsible for them, people who really have something to do with these areas that I have mentioned, are brought together or are made to, as it were, put out information out there to people, you know, because it will be coming from them and they have expertise in that area. That those messages will be more credible than just anybody at all, you know, putting out information that, I mean, I personally will have a doubt if that is just somebody else is talking to me about virus. I would want to hear about anything virus from somebody who has the requisite training, you know, to tell me about virus. And I guess that is what we need to do. From time to time, let's try, evaluate what we are doing. Where are we falling short? And then we fill in the gaps. I guess that is the only way that will help us not reach, you know, certain numbers that will throw all of us into some chaos.
Doc, I'll say a very big thanks to you this afternoon. I hope that those in charge of this situation are watching and listening and hearing and taking some cues out of this, as we all hope to make our country a better place for all of us. Say thank you once again. I've been talking to Dr. Sampon. He's a clinical psychologist and senior lecturer, Department of Social and Behavioral Sciences, University of Ghana. I'll take a quick break, but before that, just a few of your messages. Good afternoon, he says. Government should hold on to the reopening of schools and use the school facilities as isolation and treatment centers as health facilities get overwhelmed, said squatting, saying that you don't tell me where you're sending from, but thank you. Please, I think Ghana Health Service is not able to deal with the situation because discharging asymptomatic isolated patients without testing after 14 days is not the best. Adongo sends that message from Tema. This one says, hello Gifty, I am a COVID-19 recovered patient. I would like to tell your viewers the life-threatening sicknesses that one goes through before recovery, to open the damp minds. All right, I shouldn't have used that word for anyway, but that's what you sent. To open the minds of people who believe the virus doesn't exist. Sorry, I won't mention my name. I'm a female journalist. Thank you. Thank you very much for sending the message. And at least I hope that your experience will help people to back up and really do what they ought to do. Good afternoon. He says the government said we should learn how to live with the virus. But to me, Ghanaians cannot learn how to live with it without applying force. Can you imagine people saying, seeing is believing? Curiosity will kill the cat one day. Apobona Kwame Moses from Nkonya in Oti region. A quick break. When I return, more of your messages as they trickle in. Do stay with us. Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. We're still staying on coronavirus. Admissions are expected to begin at the new COVID-19 treatment center at the Kumasi South Hospital next Monday. The addition of 20 beds will increase the facility's current 21-bed capacity to 41, and that will make it the biggest treatment center in the Ashanti region as authorities push to expand COVID-19 treatment centers, which is what we're being told we have to do. A medical superintendent of the Kumasi South Hospital, Dr. Ofoyi Boedu, has been taking my colleague Ohimin Teria on a tour of the new treatment center. He says additional equipment are also needed and they are being procured to resource the center.
Expansion works come a day after Regional Health Directorate announced all treatment centers at the Komfanoche and Kumasi South hospitals are full. This means the current 38-bed facilities are inadequate. Authorities say additional 100 beds at Kumasi South, Suntreso and the private facility will be added to increase the current capacity to 138 beds. A visit to the Kumasi South Hospital, however, shows artisans were busy working to put the facility in shape. Dr. Ofoyi Boedu says maintenance works are expected to be completed over the weekend to allow admission of new patients on Monday.
It's estimated that Saturday this place should be ready so that we can admit cases to this ward. So by Monday, we should be admitting cases here.
So help us understand exactly the work that is left to be completed here at this new facility.
The soil has some amount of water, so you see the water absorbing into the block again. So we do this with the plasterings, a few plumbing work, and then the entry and then exit for staff, so that we don't contaminate ourselves in our bid to save the confirmed cases. The materials have already been procured, so I am 99% sure that indeed we can complete this Saturday.
Kumasi South, which is also the regional hospital, has, until the emergence of COVID-19, faced with infrastructure and human resource challenges. Dr. Boedu, who admits the facility is overstretched, says there has been realignment at the facility to meet the current demands.
We will have to do a bit more than we are doing to be able to sustain and our efforts and then contain the virus. Like I keep telling my staff, if we do not stop or curtail the movement of the virus outside, it will come into our homes to kill us. So yes, we are overwhelmed, but the march and then the fight goes on.
From Kumasi, for Joy News, Oime Interior reporting.
And Ohime will be joining me live, so we get an idea of the situation on the ground right now as we speak. But more of your messages whilst I get on to Ohime. This one says, Gifty, the situation we're in is a pandemic. I think government must be blamed, but the solution is government must engage NGOs and CSOs with a dedicated fund to promote education, awareness and behavioral change to ensure that people live or wear the mask. Isaac Ampoma is a concerned health education NGO. Sending that. You also say that a meeting of CSOs at all district assemblies must be convened to strategize on education and behavioral changes. And you talk about how we've done that with TB, HIV, malaria, why not COVID? Thank you for sending that message in. But one key thing that keeps coming up is the need for community engagement and education. And I hope that the people that ought to take these measures are actually listening. This one says, if my memory serves me right, you want to say, during one of the public addresses by President, he said he might impose a curfew or state of emergency to any of the areas, regions or communities which has recorded higher cases. Now that we have started to experience such, you say, he and his people are encouraging the Electoral Commission to go ahead to organize to compile a new register. His Excellency does not care much for his citizens, but focusing and concerning himself about how to get another 4 years. God save us, Ghana. Osman is sending that from Tamale Central, Dakpenfong. Thank you, and my regards to everybody that lives there. Let's get on to Ohime Teria, who is joining me live from Kumasi. Ohime, what's the situation at the moment?
Yes, the workers are busily working on the new COVID-19 treatment center at the Kumasi South Hospital. As at the time I was leaving, they were almost done with the day's activity. But according to the authorities at the Kumasi South Hospital, the workers are not closing any moment from now. They will continue to work extra hard to ensure that they put the place in shape for it to be ready by Monday. So they are looking at a Saturday deadline. Once the facility is put in good shape, then they'll start the arrangements of furnishing the facility with beds and the needed equipment as well as treatment and materials that will be needed for the center.
Ohime, I had a conversation with Fred Smith, head of our health desk right here on the show just a short while ago, and he was talking about lack of funding for a similar structure that's ongoing at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Do authorities there talk about the availability of funds to get this done and ready in good time?
Yes, they did. The medical superintendent, Dr. Ofori-Boadu, talked about the fact that the Regional Health Directorate has made funds available. And beyond this, they've also procured all the needed building materials to facilitate the refurbishment and also the maintenance of the facility to put it in good shape. So for them, funds is not an issue, but the only issue has to do with the work that they have to also support the workers, artisans, to ensure that it will be completed on time. It seems they are in a hurry because the Ashanti region, as we speak, all the treatment centers are full. The Konfanoche Teaching Hospital, which has 8 beds, is currently full, as well as the Kumasi South Regional Hospital, which also has 22 beds. So once this one is completed, it means the Kumasi South facility will have 41 beds, plus another 7 from the Suntreso Government Hospital. And the officials have also been negotiating and speaking to a private man so that they use his facility as a treatment center to augment what they have, to increase the number of beds to 138 in the Ashanti region. So I would say, yes, funding could be a constraint elsewhere, but in Ashanti region, it is not.
Well, that's a good thing, and we hope that it goes through up until the end. But Ohime, I read for you a message that's coming in from one of our viewers, and then I ask you a question on the back of that. This one says, the health director at the Ashanti region should come clear on the number of deaths, because the national figures is to confirm and update the site. Sir Jake from Domia Brankaswa saying that. Has there been any update on the case count from the region today?
I'm sure by the case count, we can only be assured of an increase, or maybe the report at the end of the day usually the COVID-19 situational reports are released after the day. So after close of work today, then it's expected that the editors, including the regional health director and his two deputies, as well as information, and then the biostatisticians will also update us as to the number of cases that have been recorded in the Ashanti region. But the last time I checked, as at yesterday, the region's case count was at 2,405 with 38 deaths. I'm not sure anything has changed until we receive a new report updating us whether we've recorded new cases or not. So I would like to take it like we still have 2,405 cases of COVID-19 positive cases in Ashanti region.
And on the back of that figure, when people get to know that the treatment centers are full, what sentiments are coming up? Yesterday, I think I asked you a similar question. I think it was Erastus rather, about the sentiments that people are sharing. People in Kumasi are sharing about this because the centers there are also attracting people from different regions, I should say. How do people feel about treatment centers being full?
I would say in the Ashanti region, not much has changed as far as people's attitude and concerns are, except that there are few of the health workers, when you speak to them, they are worried, including the regional health directorate. But to residents, they seem not to care about whether our treatment centers are full. For them, once they know the hospital at their locality is available and they can visit the facility anytime they fall sick, that is enough for them. I've spoken to a couple of them who think that, yes, COVID-19 could be around. We shouldn't forget that there are other health conditions that are also plaguing the people. So people seems not to care so much about whether the treatment centers are full or the isolation centers are getting full. All that they care is to go about their businesses and to attend to them as and when they wish. But it's a very dire situation because in the entire Ashanti region, when we look at the health facilities that are available, apart from Komfanochi Teaching Hospital that can handle critically ill patients, the rest of the health facilities can't do same. Unlike in Accra, where you can have the police hospital, the RAGE, as well as the 37 military hospital, and even the University of Ghana Medical Center to complement that of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. All these are non-existent in Ashanti region, and that has been the worry of health officials, that residents have to step up, efforts in ensuring that they live up to the preventive protocols to ensure that they are able to protect themselves. But for residents, not much has changed. It is still the old story that COVID-19 is around, we can live our lives, and when we get it, we can access the nearby health facility.
Ohimin, thank you for that update. And if you are anywhere in the Ashanti region or indeed anywhere in this country, I'm making a personal appeal to all of you to do what you can to stay away from this. I'll take you to the Central region. The Ghana Medical Association there says delays in the release of test sample results of health staff or to health staff is the cause for the rising cases of infection among health officials in the Central region. According to the Central Regional Chairman of the GMA, Dr. Justice Arthur, the situation has been worsened by patients' failure to disclose accurate information to doctors.
Site in Cape Coast. So the sample goes to Accra, Kumasi, or other testing sites. Some you get the result within 1 week. Others 2-3 weeks, results are not in. If you test positive, you can do contact tracing. Staff who have come into contact with patients, you ask them to undergo quarantine, then you can test them. But if the result delay, those people also might, if it's positive, will get the disease, but they are still working. So I'm sure we are now overwhelmed because our numbers have gone down. Resources to work with. Now you have to be purchasing this soap, hand sanitizer, tissue, and other things, which usually we're not using that much, gloves and other PPEs. So money has to go to the other, into COVID. So everything has changed. Not forgetting the diseases, malaria and the diarrhea and the respiratory infections are still there. So with health workers getting people from the community as they come in might not give you the correct history. It's when they are already in, you have admitted before you get to know the correct history. The health worker is supposed to be provided with appropriate PPE, and it should be available always. So depending on where you are working, you are advised to probably use only the face masks, goggles, or you use a coverall. Some have been provided, but it's always not enough. This case of cloth masks that we are using, though FDA says that it's comparable to the N95, which is the standard, other health workers do not believe that. So its use, though we are using it, but others find it difficult to use, especially if you are in a treatment center where there are patients. You can't be using cloth masks or inappropriate PPE. So the logistics to work with has been coming, but not enough. We use what we get from the region, but the facility's ability to buy some, we are constrained by non-payment of national health insurance money due us. Yes, they have paid some, but it takes a long time before it comes. So before the money comes, your IGF is not enough, so you run short of some items which could put staff or patients in danger. So all these factors, then it could be negligence on the part of the health worker, because at times you use this mask, you can't continually use it. So you might decide you want to breathe, you lower it. Surfaces that we touch. Unfortunately, somebody says you touch your face about 15 times in an hour. So definitely you have to rub your eyes or scratch your face. And if your hand is contaminated, you could be. So probably neglecting some small things. Usually as you work, you have to be washing your hands using sanitizer, but you might miss something and that could endanger you. So these things probably might have caused health workers to get it. But there's a saying in Fanti or Akan, definitely we are working with patients, people come in, will be exposed one way or the other. I'm sure you can take all the necessary precautions, but you may have it. But fortunately, most of the cases have been mild.
Let's head to the Central Region. Richard Kojo Nyako is our correspondent there. He will tell us the situation there. Hello, Richard. I'm assuming that you do hear me. Let's start with an update on the health workers who had to go into isolation because they were exposed. What's the latest?
Well, so at the moment, about 150 health workers, including doctors, have tested positive for the virus. And you know that the Central Region has crossed the 600 figure in terms of the national update that have been given. So a lot of them have also gone into isolation. So as you heard, the regional chair of the Ghana Medical Association, Dr. Justice Atta, intimating that it's led to a situation that, I mean, a very difficult situation for them, because a lot of them would have to work, do more than expected. Normally they would have done. And so it made the situation very difficult. Coupled with the lack of testing center in the Central Region. The Central Region has a lot of treatment centers. We have that of the Trauma and Specialist Hospital. We have the Cape Coast Metro Hospital. We have the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. These are all treatment centers, but they are talking about testing centers. And that's why they will take the samples of someone in the region, and it takes about 20 days. Sometimes it takes more than 20 days. And he explained that that has accounted for a lot of infections among the house staff, because when your test sample is taken, you do not know where your status, whether you are positive or negative. And so if it takes that long, then it becomes problematic. They might be infecting themselves, they might be infecting their families. When they go back home, they might be.
Richard Kojunako is giving us the updates from the central region. I have a few messages here before we go on to talk about some growing concerns that are coming in. This message says it's quite unfortunate that some Ghanaians still can't appreciate the dangers associated with COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, government must continue to intensify the education through our local information vans, because in my locality, he says, I can't remember the last time the education was done. T.A. Rashid is sending this from Isojaman district in the eastern region. And then there's a message I got a while ago that says that I'm trying to find it. His girlfriend tested positive. And okay, let's see. I think yes. He says, good evening. My girlfriend tested positive for COVID-19 last week, and she was asked to come back on 25th of June with no medications given her. And he says this happened in the Ashanti region. It is very worrying because we don't know what to do. And I think that's why the infection is on the increase in the Ashanti region. I hope that the authorities in the Ashanti region are paying attention to this. But what you can do to help everybody else also is that if you were tested and you were told to go and come back, you know, in say a week or two, you want to stay as much as possible isolated as you can. I don't know the situation at your home, but you certainly want to take care of yourself and observe all the protocols that makes it difficult for you to come into contact with anybody else whilst you wait for that test. But we can do better than this to the health authorities. Let's move on with some of the other stories, and that's the one there is time to do more of your messages, we will. Now, there are growing concerns about how pregnant women are shying away from the hospitals over fears of contracting coronavirus and infecting their unborn babies. In a bid to protect expectant mothers and their babies, the Greater Accra Region Hospital has rolled out a comprehensive protocol that's including the creation of 3 isolation rooms for expectant mothers. The new protocol, which also includes the prioritization of COVID-19 tests for expectant mothers who are visiting the facility for the first time, is to reassure them that the hospital environment is safe. Latif Idrissa has more in this report.
The WHO has prescribed a 1-meter distance as part of the precautionary measures to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. But what if you cannot keep that distance? Or you are unable to keep any distance at all? That is the grim reality for babies lying in the womb of mothers who have tested positive for the virus.
Acting head of the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology at the Rich Hospital, who took me on a tour at the facility, Dr. Kwabena Omari Eboa says the new protocol, including the creation of isolation rooms, are inspired by the facility's commitment to protect pregnant women.
That is the call we are making to the public, that particularly the pregnant women, don't stay home with the fear that when you go there, we will have COVID. Because we've put in place measures to deal with them, to protect them, particularly our pregnant women, because you can't postpone pregnancy, you can't postpone delivery. And so we don't want the situation where, because of COVID, we have mortalities due to other conditions. And so we expect that people, when they are sick, when they have a challenge, particularly pregnant women, will come in. And when they come in, we expect that the measures that we have put in place, they support us to implement it so that it will protect them, will protect us, and will protect their relations as well.
And what Dr. Omari didn't add is that you can't postpone labor as well as an expectant mother.
Of course.
With increasing level of apprehension among expectant mothers, Administrator at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, Dr. Emmanuel Strefenyo, says the facility has a protocol that is trigger-ready to accommodate expectant mothers who may test positive for the virus.
The system is quite ready in the sense that we have a room. First of all, we have a system that we call the Pre-Triage. So we will not allow you to mingle with the people before the initial screening questions are asked. So at that point, if there is a reason to suspect that you may have the condition, we will not allow you to mingle with the other people. From there, we will send you to what we call the holding center, or a room that has been designated within the maternity department, which we call the holding center, and you'll be all by yourself in that room, but staffs in appropriate gear, appropriate PPE can come to you and manage you.
Director of Institutional Care at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Samuel Kaba-Korea, says the protocol by RAGE is to instill trust in the health facilities.
We've prioritized testing for them, and that is if once we label it that pregnant or labor, you get your results very quick for two reasons. One is to make sure that they get the service as fast as possible, and second, to make sure that they are well protected. And they take all the necessary measures to protect the pregnant woman and then the newborn. Because one of the things we don't want is people to lose trust in our health facilities.
Obstetrician, gynecologist, and member of the Family Health Division of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Chris Opoku-Fofie, tells me the unit is preparing for the worst-case scenario.
Most of our preventive measures, we hope, are working well. We might not get into that grim picture that others might be forecasting. Notwithstanding, we are preparing for the worst, and that means we are streamlining or we are maximizing our potential. When I say that, what I mean is that within our health facilities, we are putting in structures so that women who come to deliver will still be safe at any given time.
As far as authorities at the Greater Accra Hospital are concerned, their facility and many other health facilities remain the safest place for expectant mothers to visit.
Latif Idris with our report. There appears to be hope on the horizon for people living with COVID-19. Researchers in the United Kingdom say a cheap, widely available drug can help save the lives of patients who are seriously ill with coronavirus. Officials say the low-dose steroid treatment Dexamethasone is a major breakthrough in the fight against the deadly virus. JoyNews' Emmanuel Jivenu has been visiting some pharmacies in Accra to find out more about this drug.
Dexamethasone is an anti-inflammatory drug believed to be able to reduce the risk of death in COVID-19 patients. It was one of the drugs studied in a large clinical trial in the United Kingdom known as Recovery, or Randomized Evaluation of COVID-19 Therapy. According to scientists, the drug reduces deaths by 1/3 in ventilated COVID-19 patients. Dexamethasone has been on the Ghanaian market for decades, and it is used to treat conditions such as arthritis and asthma. Most of the pharmacies I visited in Accra have stocks of the drug. Those that have run out of stock say they will quickly restock in anticipation of a spike in demand. Daniel Aye Entry is a certified pharmacist at Stevaco Pharmacy Limited in Newtown. He tells me more about dexamethasone.
Dexamethasone is a steroid. It's basically used for treating inflammations. So if you have inflammations of the skin, of the body, and also sometimes you can use it in the treatment of certain allergic conditions, and then also for people who have asthma, since the steroid helps in that condition, breathing problems and all that.
Many people I spoke with on the streets of Accra appear not to be aware of a dexamethasone and its newfound potency to reduce the mortality rate among infected patients.
Actually, this is my first time of hearing it, so yeah, maybe I'll go and research about it. Since maybe I'm a student though, so I'll research about it and find out.
No, I haven't heard of it. No. So like I said, I haven't heard about such a drug.
With as little as 2 Ghana cedis, one can purchase 0.5 milligrams of the capsules from a drug shop. But health experts are warning the public against the use of a drug without proper prescription from a qualified physician.
It should be prescribed. Other than that, it should be given out by a pharmacist, depending on the condition the patient works in with or presents with. I think that they should get a prescription, since it's a prescription medication. They shouldn't just walk in to get it, and they should have in mind that it has a lot of side effects like sleep disorders. You can have skin conditions, rashes, lesions and all that. So people should be very informed, or they should know that they have to get a prescription and it has to be prescribed before they get this medication.
Prevention is better than cure, but this is not a prophylaxis. You don't take it to prevent a disease. To stay safe, the World Health Organization prescribed frequent washing of hands with soap and running water, use of alcohol-based hand rub with at least 60% alcohol. Avoid touching your eyes, nose or mouth with unwashed hands. Practice good respiratory etiquette, including covering coughs and sneezes, and stay home if sick. Emmanuel Jivenu's report for JoyNews.
We couldn't say it even more. Stay home, stay safe, keep washing your hands. Let's do all that we can. Let's take it more seriously. This is still The Pulse with me, Gifty and Dopia. Time to take another very quick break. But when I return, teachers are to take licensure exams on Sunday as the National Teaching Council reviews from one paper each day to all in one. So the teachers are writing 3 in 1 on Sunday. So we'll be live with the Executive Secretary of the NTC. Find out how this is supposed to play out. Send us your thoughts once again on 05401 9009. I'll be right back. Welcome back once again. The National Teaching Council has fixed Sunday, June 21, for the writing of the Ghana Teacher Licensure Examinations. Unlike the previous ones where the candidates used 3 days to write the 3 papers, this time round they have to write all the 3 papers on the same day. Executive Secretary of the National Teaching Council, Christian Adaipoko, is joining me via Zoom so we can have an understanding of this. Sir, thank you for your time this afternoon.
You're welcome, Gifty.
So first of all, we want to understand why the change.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, we are not in normal times. Under normal circumstances, it should have been 3 days, and that would have meant that candidates will have to congregate at the examination center for the first day, second day, and the third day. And we thought that that will increase the risk for COVID-19 infections. So at the council meeting, council decided that we should make it a 1-day affair so that the risk of students congregating, or candidates rather, congregating for 3 consecutive days, including travels, using trotro for 3 days to and flow from that place and so on, it's a big challenge to us. So based on that, we decided that, okay, let's cut the to and fro and then rather use a 1-day examination.
Doesn't it sound as though the teachers' welfare, if you like, wasn't really taken into consideration? Because now welfare, not in terms of health, I mean, not health-wise, but the ability to learn to write these 3 papers at the same time. I mean, that is some sort of mental stress, don't you think, for these teachers?
It's a bit of a challenge to them. It's a bit of a difficulty, but it is not beyond them because it's not the first time NTC is doing something like this. Last year, instead of 3 days, we used 2 days to write, and it was successful. We believe that writing all the 3 papers in 1 day will not be too much of something that cannot be done at all, because first paper will take about 1 hour 45 minutes, second paper is about 1 hour 15 minutes, and the third paper is about 1 hour 30 minutes. And something that they can easily smart.
Okay. It'll be interesting to hear from the teachers, and I want to hear from them to say, if you're a teacher and you're watching us, do send us a WhatsApp message. Let's see if you can do that within the time that we're on the show so that we can ask Mr. Daipoku and get some answers for you. Let me just quickly go through the numbers again. So if you need to send us, it's 0540109009. So send us a WhatsApp if you're a teacher who'll be writing this exam. Let's know what you think. So Mr. Daipoku, back to you. This is supposed to be the 4th edition. Have you seen any improvement in terms of teacher output over the years?
Well, we are yet to measure that because the first group of people who wrote the licensure exam have just been recruited. They are not even 1 year in the service. So it may take some time for us to do tracer study to find out how that is impacting on academic work. So the first group just got recruited last year. As we move on, maybe in the next 2 or 3 years, we should be able to do a tracer study and find out how it's impacted on academic work.
How many teachers are expected to write this exam?
Approximately 14,500 candidates are supposed to write.
14,500 candidates, and help us understand how the distribution looks like across the country.
Well, offhand, I'm not able to tell, but what I know is that we have changed some of the centers that originally we planned to write the exam. For instance, all the senior high schools that were earmarked as centers have been shaped because of the immigration going on in those places. If you go to Kumasi, for instance, we had earmarked Prempeh College, Opokuari Senior High School, Asantemai Senior High School, among others, Anglican Senior High School, to write the exams there. But because of the activities going on there, we have moved almost all the centers to KNUST, and those St. Louis College of Education, we have moved some of them to University College of Education, Winneba, Kumasi campus. So that is a little change that has happened. But you know, we have 27 centers across the country. And if you go to voter registration, we're supposed to write info, University, but we had challenge. So we have moved to St. Francis College of Education. That's Hohoi. So that is a little of a issue. To we're supposed to write at the Senior High School, but we have moved it to I think Sefi. I've forgotten the specific name. I don't have it.
Okay, I think I might even need you to. I think I might even need you to give us a list of these changes so that we can share it with teachers and so that they know, for those who have not been in contact with you, because I lost you there because of the, I think, the positioning.
Sefi also has been moved. BBNA has been moved to Sefi also Senior High Training College. Sefi College of Education. So those who chose Senior High School will now write at Sefi also College of Education. Among others, this has been published in the dailies, and then it's also on social media, and we continue to make announcements for people to know where they are supposed to write. We have also sent text messages specifically to individual teachers concerning their specific centers. So we believe that people have been informed adequately, and they shouldn't be frustrated at all on the day of the examination.
So just when I announce the numbers for people to ask you questions, I've got tons of questions coming in right now. It's even funny. I just want to find out. So there are people who are asking about, I'm trying to, in my head, put this together so that, because I can't take all the questions. There's a lot of them. Davida is asking from Cape Coast, what happens to teachers who are unable to pass this licensure exams, and whether it can't wait?
Well, whether it can't wait, the answer is of twofold. First, it can't wait, in my opinion, because it is likely that the employer will employ teachers by September. That has been the standard practice within the education service to recruit teachers before September school reopens. I don't know what GES timetable is as of now, whether they want to do it that way or because of the COVID, they will want to wait. That notwithstanding, we believe that we will need to write this exam for those who qualify to be recruited to get a chance. And so that is one of the reasons we believe they can't wait. But on the other hand, anything can happen because a lot of things were planned before COVID-19 restrictions came, and a lot of things waited. But with the easing of the restrictions, we believe that it is appropriate that we take the steps to write so that people can be in good standing when it comes to the recruitment and will not be disadvantaged.
Someone says 3 papers a day will be very stressful. He's Solomon from Atomic. 3 papers will be stressful, but we will try and write. Please, how many candidates are expected to be in an examination room? And what other protocols are we expected to go through?
Thank you very much. The examination rooms are relative based on the size of the hall, and they are not of the same measurement. So I'm unable to tell that one. But what I know is that for examination, we already have our social distancing rules already, and we are going to enhance it even more to make sure that people are not endangered, apart from the fact that we don't want any cheating to go on when people are close to each other. We also want to ensure that people are not endangered in terms of health because of what we are in.
But Mr. Daipoko, just to interrupt you briefly, I mean, we're seeing a spike in our numbers at the moment. So for the NTC, one would have expected that these things will be even communicated to the teachers already. How many people will be in a particular class? It should be something we know at this point, wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that for the number in a particular class, it's very difficult to tell, because if you go to University of, let's say, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, some of the lecture halls are bigger than others.
Okay.
And so we cannot say exclusively that we will have 10 people in every lecture theater. But what the precaution we are taking is that both in rows and in columns, people should sit in the interval of more than 1 meter. And so the social distancing rule of 1 meter apart will be strictly applied to make sure that people are not endangered. And it's already a law in Ghana that everybody must wear face masks. And so it goes without saying that without the face mask, nobody can be given the chance to enter the examination hall. Besides that, we are also providing either sanitizers or soapy water for people to either wash their hands or sanitize their hands before they enter the examination hall, among other things that we are supposed to do to ensure that people are not endangered during the examination.
It sounds like from what you're saying, the NTC feels all set to go with this. But Joseph Ba is asking a question that a lot of other people have also asked. He's asking, what's the point in writing these exams without automatic employment in the teaching field after exams? And the concern also has been that, in fact, teachers have been home during these trying times. So the question essentially is, there aren't postings even after these exams. What's happening there, sir?
Well, I think people confuse the work of National Teaching Council with that of the Ghana Education Service or a private school. The work of National Teaching Council is to make sure that people are in good standing to practice as teachers. So whether you'll be posted or not is not the question. The question is, do you qualify to be posted? It is when you satisfy that any employer, be it in the public service or in the private sector, can decide that, okay, this person qualifies and I want to engage that person. So it's not about you being posted or not, but it's about being in good standing to be able to become employable.
Okay. I have just a few seconds to wrap up with you, but I think this is important to read out. He says, I'm confused. Is he talking about those of us slated for our final exams on 2nd and 3rd July, or is he really talking about student teachers who just finished with their teaching practice?
That's a very relevant question. The current examination going on is not for those already in school preparing to write their final exam. NTC writes 2 essential exams within a space of time, September and March. Usually the March one is for reciters and few others who could not access the September main exam. The main exam is normally in September. So those in school preparing to write their final exams to graduate will write their essential exam either latter part of September or early October.
Okay. So we're all set for Sunday, which is just this Sunday. Hopefully well, we don't really have much time. We're set for tomorrow and I guess, Saturday. But hopefully the information that ought to get to these teachers who are sitting the paper will. Thank you very much, sir, for your time this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gifty. The information has gone to every teacher. Every candidate is supposed to write. And those who have not yet received the information, in case there are people like that, they must visit the NTC portal as quickly as possible, and they will locate the attendance.
Okay. Okay. So teachers should log on to the NTC portal. If you don't have enough information on what to do, log on to the NTC portal and hopefully you get the information that works for you. Sadai Poku, thank you. He's Executive Secretary of the NTC. The United States Ambassador to Ghana, Stephanie S. Sullivan, has joined Ghana's Education Minister, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, to launch the Ghana Learning Radio, a reading program. The program was developed in response to the closure of over 25,000 primary schools nationwide due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The radio program will engage parents, caregivers, and students through daily broadcasts to support and improve reading among Ghana's primary school-age students. Education Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh did the launch on Zoom. Well, the U.S. Ambassador and Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh symbolically also unveiled their radio sets to launch the program.
And I have here the beautiful color of Ghana's flag. I'm pleased to join you in the outdooring of this wonderful program. The radio is presented to the USA Ambassador to Ghana on launching of the Ghana Learning Radio, June 15th, 2020. I hereby second the opening and outdooring. Thank you very much.
What it means to accept the new normal, launching virtually. All right, so good news for primary school students who get to learn on radio. Let's talk a bit more politics, if you like, election 2020. Some political parties have expressed satisfaction over the performance of the biometric registration kits expected to be used for the mass registration exercise. The Electoral Commission today created 2 registration centers at Rich Church here in Accra to display the new BVRs to ascertain the effectiveness of those kits. Well, some political parties who visited the registration centers observed that the system put in place will help, according to them, safeguard the lives of applicants in the wake of COVID-19. But first, my colleague Kusipaka Wilson was there. Here's father's report.
We are here at the Rich Church where the Electoral Commission essentially is trying to test the performance of the biometric kits that will be used for the mass registration exercise. And since I got here, I've made my own observation, and one thing that I observe is that the Electoral Commission seems to tackle 2 things at a time, where they're looking at the performance of the biometric kits and also the concerns about safety when applicants or electorate would want to register for the voters' ID card. And one of the things that they do is that the moment you enter, there is a security official there where they'll check your temperature with a thermometer gun, and also you'd have to wash your hand. And I see some police personnel also there, because this is more like a registration center that would be replicated during the mass registration. And if you're talking about social distancing, as you can see, the chairs are being spaced, and I see a white box where all the chairs have been positioned in just to ensure that they don't breach the social distancing. And I want to do something, Mamavi, because one of the social distancing protocol is that you have to get about 6 feet social distancing. So just permit me to count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, exactly 6 feet. So that is what the Electoral Commission is doing, just to ensure that they are observing the social distancing protocol. When you are done, you move to the registration officer, and I see some of them with nose masks as well, and others also with gloves. They will take your details and ensure that you go through the process smoothly. So this is what is happening here at the Rage Center. And some of the political parties have been present. The NPP was here a while ago. I spoke to the chairman of the campaign manager of the 2020 elections, that is Peter McMenu, and also some Nanabi being the youth organizer of the party. The director of communications for the Electoral Commission, Madame Seviano, is here, and I just want to just get a quick information from here. Madam. Yes, so, Madam, good afternoon. Basically, I have made my own observation, but what is the Electoral Commission seeking to achieve for this process?
Yes, you may ask. Once again, we are having a pilot. Now, the essence of a pilot exercise is to make sure that you cross all your T's and you dot your I's. making sure that you are set in case there are problems. You know, you are able to nip them in the bud before the D-Day. We are talking about the 30th of this month, the commencement, which marks the commencement of the registration exercise. Now, so basically the essence of this exercise is to make sure that we are able to identify if there are any problems so we can solve them and run the registration exercise smoothly.
Right, but has there been any challenge so far?
So far, I, for one, haven't been able to identify any serious challenge. What we are seeing is that some of, maybe some of the queues are, there are quite a number of people here. They are patronizing it, and averagely, you see one person going through like 5 minutes or 6 minutes, depending on the speed of the one behind the computer, you know, behind the machine, so that if you are able to fast track the process, you know, for instance, if you are going to the registration center, you need to get all your details right. You may have to fast track that process by, for example, making sure that you have your name written boldly on the sheet of paper, your house number, your address, and that kind of stuff.
Kwesi Parker Wilson. Kwesi Parker Wilson with that report. We can now listen to the campaign chairperson of the NPP, Peter McMenu, and other political parties who say they are impressed with the pilot process so far.
I will look at it from two perspectives. One is the health issues associated with the registration, that is the COVID-19 perspective, and then secondly, the voter registration process itself. With respect to the health issues, the COVID-19 protocols, I am satisfied that as soon as I got here, the first thing I was directed to do was to wash my hands under a Veronica bucket, flowing water with soap. After I finished that, they gave me a paper napkin to clean my hands, and then they sanitized my hand. Then I was made to join a queue, and the queue had been marked with a paint, a white paint, to social distance one from each other, also in line with the World Health Organization and Ghana Health Service protocol. So I joined the queue, and ultimately I got to the first table, where Form 1A, which captures your biodata, your name, your mother's name, your residential address, and more importantly, your identity to demonstrate, to show that you are a citizen of Ghana. And I showed or gave them my National Identification Authority card. Then they quoted the number of the card on a row, and this is important, on a row on the Form 1A. Because in the previous Form 1A, there was no row for inputting the number of one's citizenship identification. That is why there was a quarrel with people who used the National Health Insurance when the Supreme Court ordered that they be brought back, because there was no row. So they quoted my number on the row, and then the lady gave the form back to me to join another queue. I joined the other queue. In fact, I spent less than 5 minutes with the lady. Then I joined another queue. Then ultimately I got to the biometric registration kit table, where my fingerprint, my thumbprint, my photo were all taken, and then the card was issued from Form 1C. It was cut out of the Form 1C and laminated, and then I thumbprinted the card for their office use, and then laminated for me with the inscription P on it, a big P, showing that it is a provisional card. So finito. I didn't take more than 3 minutes on that table. So as far as I'm concerned, both the health issues are being taken care of.
One of our members had already gone through the process. It took the person about, I think 6 minutes or so.
Everything is going on well. I'm observing the social distancing, the face masking. Everything is going on well.
And would you say that has there been any challenge of seeing yourself, or you think that this whole exercise has been great so far?
It's so perfect. I haven't seen anything going wrong. Everything is going on smoothly. So I think everyone should observe this and then practice it along.
Right. So when you say GUM, what do you say?
Yeah, Brett. Yeah, GMI. GUM, Arise for Development.
Okay, so I'm saying GUM.
Yeah, Brett. Yeah, GMI. Ghanaians, let us arise for development.
Thank you very much. So that's the GUM aspiring member of parliament for Enyasotium constituency.
Kwesi Baka-Wilson with that report there. Yesterday, we brought you that conversation with the Gender Ministry on the Day of the African Child. As you may know already, this year marks the 29th anniversary of that observance. As a promoter of quality primary education in Ghana, Right to Play celebrates the progress made thus far to educate the future leaders of this continent. I have a conversation today, a quick one, with Lawrence Ofer, training officer at Right to Play. Mr. Ofer, thank you for your time this afternoon. Let's talk about the progress your research or your work shows that we have made so far in this regard when it comes to children.
Thank you very much. I also want to say that one of the things that the theme for this year's celebration is access to child-friendly justice system. We cannot have a kind of a system that is friendly if children, particularly in the rural areas, don't have the same access to education as those in the cities. And so following the lockdown of schools on by somewhere on the 16th, we realized that government intervention to have virtual learning on TV will also hinder some of the children who are in the rural communities. We are aware that research shows that only about 45% of the households in Ghana have access to television. And so we put in place a strategy to reach children in homes. What we basically did was to make sure that these children have access to material to read, and then we leverage on teachers who are living within the communities to reach out to these teachers and then support them with learning, because at the same time educate them on the COVID-19. And you'll be surprised, there are a lot of people who really were living with the myth. As of today, we have been able to reach about 20,000 children in 5 districts. We have reached households of about 2,000, reaching about 10,000 adults. And all these people will say that at the end of the day, the kind of comments and feedback that we get and indicated that at the end of the day, those in the rural areas also need the same kind of access to quality education and quality access just as we are delivering to them.
And finally, what do we do from here going forward? What are some of the good things that we can do based on the work you have done?
Right. So we are currently partnering with the Ministry of Education and then USAID to also bring in radio programming, so that at the end of the day, those children, those who are unable, we are unable to reach directly, could also have access on radio. And so we want to encourage anybody who wants to support. The most important thing is that we want to be able to reach every household. And we are encouraging everyone to get on board to make sure that these children, about 4.5 million children that are home now, would have equal access to education. Because the exams they write is not meant for only those in the cities, it is meant for everyone. And they all must enjoy equal access to education during this COVID-19 pandemic.
Mr. Lawrence Ofer, thank you very much for your time and for the good work you're doing for children. So 4.5 million children estimated to be at home. Let's see how we can reach them with education in these times. Lawrence Ofer is with Right to Play, is a child rights NGO. Now, staff of the Pantan Hospital here in Accra have embarked on a total strike, laying down their tools and attending only to cases on the wards. New patients to the facility are being turned away as the workers begin another phase of their protest over encroachment and safety concerns. The staff last week began that sit-down strike, outlining a roadmap to follow if their concerns remain unresolved. Among others, they say that the activities of land guards on a parcel of land amid sporadic gunshots and rampant robberies, as well as attacks on some of the workers, remain issues that put their lives under threat. Health Minister Kweku Agyeman in 2017 assured government would address the concerns.
We have seen what is going on here. The developments apparently encroaching on Pantan Hospital's lands, blocking the whole facade of the huge facility that we have here. And I don't think that is the best. Luckily, we met the main person who claims to own the land with his documentation and the court judgment. And it's like he claiming that he has rightful title to the land and therefore he cannot abandon his own property for the sake of the hospital.
That was the health minister in 2017 when the staff raised those concerns over encroachment. But 3 years on, there appears that little has been done in terms of progress for the concerns they raised. Here is the Pantan local GMA secretary, Dr. Alice Ansa Owusu.
Just as we indicated in the roadmap, we are starting the complete strike today. As you can see, all the OPDs are locked with red bands all over. The medical OPD, the maternity, the psychiatric OPD, the oral health unit, everywhere is locked, and we are not seeing any patients. The only people we are seeing now are the clients on the wards. We are hoping it doesn't get there, but if we are pushed to it, we will have to withdraw services to those on the wards too. It appears our leaders are completely listless, apathetic. They aren't concerned about what is happening, because you can't wait for all this period. We said the first letter went on the 22nd of May. Here we are, 18th of June, and nothing has happened. 3 years ago, this started. They told us that they were going to reacquire the land. We have all this on video. When the Minister of Health came, spoke to us nicely, Honorable Agyeman, that we're going to reacquire the land. Government has interest in the land and our safety as well. But here we are, nothing has changed. It's been 3 years, so no one can tell us to keep waiting. And when we went to the ministry, we made it very clear that our members, we are union heads, we represent a union, we are not on our own. Our members want to see action. They don't want us to come telling them that, okay, so they should go back to work. They want to see for themselves that the wall is being built up. There are security. We ask for a permanent police post or military post so that we can be sure of security. There are so many land guards, quarters, everyone moving in here and there.
As the situation at the moment at the Pantan Hospital, before we go, the Ghana Immigration Service has reshuffled some top officials as well as other officers. Now 6 top immigration officers and 53 other senior officers at the national headquarters have been reshuffled. Head of Management Information System Department, the MISD, Erica Fari, has been moved to head the Bono region as the regional commander. The Ashanti regional commander, Assistant Commissioner of Immigration Michael Kwadade, has been moved to Operations Department at the national headquarters, and the regional commander of the Upper West, ACI Peter Yawon Nkrumah, has been reassigned to the Northeast as the regional commander, while the head of Human Resource Department, ACI Kojo Opon Yeboah, has been taken to the regional to Tema as the regional commander, where ACI Adwoasika Enim takes over as the head of Human Resource Department with the Bono regional commander. ACI Charles Bediako going to the Ashanti region as the regional commander. We have the full statement at myjoyonline.com. You want to log on to that page and get the details of the reshuffle ongoing, done by Kwame Suatichi, the Controller General of the Immigration Service. My name is Gifty Andopia. It's been a pleasure coming your way. Let's do this again tomorrow, shall we? And I'll say a very big thanks to you. Do stay with us.